Reviewer's log. Stardate? Tuesday. Having secured an alternate method of viewing Star Trek Lower Decks that doesn't require me to waste my money on CBS All Access, I have commenced with the likely fruitless task of reviewing all subsequent episodes that have aired since I reviewed the pilot and said that was the only episode I would cover. Does it make me pathetic that I couldn't stick to my guns on that? Maybe. But my rent is due on the 1st, so screw it. I must confess to feeling anxiety about what diving back into a truly awful show could do to my mental health, but I survived Batwoman Season 1, and I'm sure Lower Decks couldn't possibly be as bad as that was. On a related note, as my original attempt was unsuccessful, I should find out if it actually is possible to hang oneself in zero gravity. Such knowledge may soon prove to be invaluable. Oh god, I learned the characters' names. I'm doomed, aren't I? Alright, so episode 1 wasn't good, and I think the downward slope has already begun. And I say that based not on episode 2, but on the first 20 seconds of episode 2. That's literally all the time it took for them to do something stupid. Mariner and Tendi are talking about how they should hit the bar so Mariner can find someone to piss off. And I'm not even being sarcastic. She just wants to find someone to argue with because she enjoys pissing people off. Like Boimler. Or the audience. Then from out of nowhere, a trans-dimensional sentient energy being thing floats in through the walls from outer space, and Mariner tackles it to the ground. Even though it can become intangible. 5 seconds earlier, we watched it phase through the wall of the ship. But when entrapped by the arms of super awesome bestest ever Ensign Mariner, it's completely solid and totally at her mercy because she has to look cool, I guess. Never mind the fact that this makes no sense, but I don't think that's something this show is too concerned with. So Mariner tries to stuff it in a space canister, and I guess it can't phase through canisters either because it tries to bargain its way out by saying it can grant them wishes. So Mariner wishes for a new tricorder with a racing stripe or something, it poops one of those out, and then Mariner and Tendi just leave. Even though the transdimensional energy being thing is right there. It doesn't need to be secured or anything? Okay. And apparently making the new tricorder weakened it because the captain walks by, it attacks her, bounces off her chest, and just blinks out of existence without her even noticing it. None of this has anything to do with what happens in the rest of the episode. And if you think this was an awful lot of stupid to pack into 90 seconds, just wait until you see what they do with 25 minutes. So later, Boimler walks in, and he's all excited because he's got this really cool assignment of piloting Klingon General Ko-Rin down to a planet. And Mariner and Tendi don't know who this Klingon is because all Klingon names sound the same due to them all having an apostrophe in them. You know, Klingon names like Worf. Mariner thinks this assignment is super lame, but Boimler's psyched about it because he actually cares about doing a good job and goes to brush up on Klingon language greetings. Wouldn't the translator just render that pointless? I don't know how that works. Then Rutherford pops out of the Jeffries tube. Apparently, he's been in there for a week straight realigning conduits and things like that, and now he gets to spend another 4 days in there recalibrating stuff. It's insane, but it sounds like an important job, and it seems to make him happy. But then, here's something I suspect you'll be hearing a lot in the future. The women immediately ruin it for him. Tendi mentions that they were supposed to watch a pulsar together, and tries to guilt him into ditching work for this because doing something they could literally do any time, seeing as how they live on a spaceship, is more important than Rutherford's job. Then Rutherford is like, hey, I know, if I change my whole career to please you, then fitting one date around my work schedule wouldn't be an issue. Why don't I just do that? Tendi thinks this man rearranging his entire life just so he can hang out with her for an hour is a great idea. And then it actually gets quite a bit worse after this. So Boimler boards the shuttle to prep for takeoff and finds Mariner eating ramen noodles in the cockpit. Because Mariner likes to piss people off, remember, she pulled some strings and got herself assigned to this mission too. In fact, Boimler is now her co-pilot, which means she's in command. In the previous episode, Mariner was deemed so unreliable that Boimler was assigned the job of keeping an eye on her and reporting to the captain if she did anything stupid, and now she's getting assigned leadership positions and she's his superior. I've got just as many questions as you do. Then Mariner plays with the blast shield, because it's annoying, and takes a nap in the shuttle until General Ko-Rin walks in. Mariner instantly attacks the guy, grabs his knife, puts the knife to his throat, tries to kill him, and then they just start laughing. Boimler's crapping himself, he doesn't know what the hell's going on, but it turns out that these two are old buddies, and this is just how they say hey. Then they get shit-faced in the back of the shuttle while Boimler is stuck doing all the boring stuff. Like, his job. You know, that super lame mission he was assigned? That thing? Yeah. So Boimler is flying them down to the planet. He's supposed to take General Ko-Rin to a Federation outpost, but Mariner peer pressures him into setting them down in a space flea market so Ko-Rin can get hot worms. I guess those are like ramen noodles for Klingons or something? I don't know. Then Mariner makes a joke, and the General spits his blood wine all over Boimler. And this is funny, you see, because the white guy is getting humiliated. Boimler sets them down in an unsecured district because Mariner wants to look cool in front of her drinking buddy. Then, as soon as they step out of the shuttle, Ko-Rin flies off with it and leaves them there. Boimler is, of course, horrified because they've done a terrible job representing Starfleet, and a screw-up like this could ruin his whole career. But Mariner's like, stealing a spaceship, that is so Ko-Rin. Her dad's an admiral, her mom's a captain, so she's bulletproof, she doesn't give a shit. At most, this'll be a slap on the wrist for her. Meanwhile, her buddy's whole life just fell apart because of her, and she couldn't care less. I wonder if the writers realize what they've done here. In their efforts to create a show with a very obvious woke agenda, they have somehow created a black female character in Mariner who, for all intents and purposes, has more white privilege than the actual white guy. Was this their intention the whole time, or did it happen by accident? I'm genuinely curious. Anyway, because the planet has an ion field that restricts comms and the transporter, which Mariner doesn't know because she didn't bother to read the mission brief, they're up shit creek right now. So they've got to find Ko-Rin and fast or Boimler's career is donezo, so they search the flea market. Boimler bumps into this huge alien brute thing, nearly gets himself killed. Mariner has to save his life because I guess it's in her contract that she does something awesome every 5 minutes or so, and Boimler, as the white guy, is the show's de facto punching bag. Case in point, while Mariner is in the little girl's room, some sexy chick in a skimpy bikini comes onto Boimler, and he's about to make out with her when Mariner sprays them with a hose, and she's like, "Dude, that's an evil alien creature, and she was about to lay her eggs in you." Sure enough, the sexy lady's face unfurls like a cobra, and she climbs up the side of a building all horrifying-like. Turns out she only came onto Boimler in the first place because her species is attracted to the weak-minded. Yeah, okay, writers, your point has been made. Boimler sucks at everything. I get it. Can we move on from this, please? And maybe, I don't know, tell some jokes or something? Back on the ship, Rutherford tells his CO that he's requesting a transfer out of engineering, and the CO is weirdly happy about it. And just like that, Rutherford has transferred to Command Division, and he runs through a couple training simulations on the holodeck just long enough to get the whole crew killed a couple times, so he figures, Command might not be for me. Let's try science instead. So he swaps out his new red uniform for a blue one, he tries being a doctor, and the process repeats itself. As I said last time, I'm not really a Trekkie, so I'm not sure how this works exactly, but I was under the impression that when a Starfleet officer was assigned to a particular division, command, science, engineering, whatever, it's because they were trained at Starfleet Academy specifically for that job. Is that not the case? Because Rutherford was calibrating stuff in the Jeffries tube, and now all of a sudden he's working on some dude's endocrine system in sickbay. How can he just switch from one division to another like this? For that matter, wouldn't it have been easier to just swap shifts with someone else who's in engineering? I don't know what the hell's going on right now. So after the cat doctor kicks him out for having bad bedside manner, wow, the guy who's not a doctor doesn't know how to act like one. Who could have seen that coming? He switches to Security Division. He runs a combat simulation, and I guess Rutherford's cyborg implants let him connect to the Matrix because he just loads up some combat program and he's like, I know Kung Fu. Not literally, clowns. It's a joke. Shut up. So he obliterates a bunch of holographic Borg drones, impresses the hell out of the Bajoran security chief, who's ready to roll out the red carpet for him after seeing this, so Rutherford has finally found a job he excels at with a schedule that won't conflict with his fucking date with the green chick. Everything's coming up Milhouse all of a sudden. Except Rutherford just can't resist the siren song of the Jeffries tube. So he's like, you know what? I think I want to go back to engineering. And again, his CO is surprisingly cool with this. So, it's as if the whole thing didn't really matter that much. At all. Back on the planet, to the shock of no one, while Boimler was nearly getting himself killed for the second or third time in the last 10 minutes, Mariner not only saved his life yet again, but also got a lead on General Ko-Rin. They go looking for him at the space bar, and inside, Boimler sees two Andorians roughing up some elderly Andorian. So he phases them and tries to stop this heinous act, but it turns out that the old dude was actually a shapeshifter and a thief who Boimler just helped escape. You know, because Boimler's an idiot. So a huge bar fight breaks out, Boimler gets his ass kicked, then he gets shoved into some huge spiky dude, and one of the spikes stabs him in the junk. I think it says an awful lot about this show that I no longer feel the need to point out that I'm not joking. So Mariner saves Boimler's life, again. She immediately stops the bar fight by buying everyone a round of drinks, and just like that, they're all raising Mariner up and carrying her around like she's a fucking hero, while Boimler is left feeling like the biggest jackass in the universe. Who is quite possibly no longer able to have kids due to the giant hole that was just punctured in his ball sack. Afterward, Boimler is wallowing in self-pity, with his pants down and crying, of course, because if he escaped this episode with one single molecule of dignity, that's one molecule too many. And he's like, Super Amazing Mariner is awesome at everything without even trying, but I suck at Starfleet so bad that I should just quit. I should go work on a research asteroid until I get eaten by space bugs, and then no one would even care that I died because I'm such a fucking loser. Mariner tries to cheer him up by boasting about how badass and amazing she is. Strangely enough, that doesn't make him feel better, so he says that when they get back to the ship, he's done. Then, as they're tracking down Ko-Rin, this shifty-looking Ferengi jumps out at them, and he's like, Hey, you guys want to come with me? I've got free candy in my unmarked van. And Boimler's like, no, you're clearly untrustworthy, go away. But Mariner's like, free candy? Yeah! She wants to go with him, and doesn't even think he's a Ferengi, but when Boimler wants to see the dude's landing code, he pulls a knife on them, so Boimler phases him and runs him off. So Mariner's embarrassed, Boimler's got his confidence back, they find the shuttle conveniently parked right in front of the very place they were supposed to be going to this whole time. General Ko-Rin is passed out drunk in the shuttle, so they dump his body on the steps, ring the doorbell, and haul ass out of there. On their way back to the ship, Mariner's like, wow, I can't believe I didn't know that guy was a Ferengi. This is really embarrassing. Hey, what do you say we just keep this between us, buddy? You know, so I don't look like a clown in front of the whole crew? And Boimler says, sure, nobody else has to know. because he's the bigger man, and he's come out of this experience more secure in himself and his abilities, and he doesn't need to tear someone else down to make himself feel good. Cut to the mess hall, where Boimler is telling the entire crew how Mariner was a massive dumbass for not recognizing the most suspicious-looking Ferengi ever, and he was a big damn hero who saved her life because Boimler is awesome and Mariner sucks, and there's so much wrong with this I want to punch somebody. First of all, does Mariner deserve to get humiliated like this? Oh, hell yeah. But the way it's written makes it impossible to get any kind of satisfaction out of it. The whole botched mission was absolutely 150,000% her fault. But regardless of how they wound up in that situation, Mariner did save Boimler's life like half a dozen times, which has to count for something, I guess. Then she asks her friend to keep this between them so she doesn't get embarrassed in front of all their crewmates. He says yes, and then he does it anyway. Did she have that coming? Yes. Did he spend the entire episode getting shit on prior to this? Yes. But that was when it was just the two of them. So no one will ever know about him getting seduced by the Cobra Lady and getting stabbed in the dick. Here, Boimler's crapping on Mariner in front of everyone they work with after she asked him if they could keep this between them, and while she keeps her mouth shut about his multiple f***ups, which kind of makes Boimler look like a petty, insecure asshole. But whatever, at least Mariner screwed up and got humbled, right? That made the whole thing worth it, didn't it? Oh no, because then we find out that the shifty Ferengi dude is another old buddy of Mariner's who helped her stage the whole thing so they could make Boimler feel better about being a gigantic failure. So you see, Mariner didn't screw up. In fact, she's more awesome than ever! She allowed herself to get embarrassed to bolster Boimler's self-esteem, proved herself to be the bigger person by not embarrassing him in front of all their co-workers when she could have easily done so, and even though she's an insubordinate, arrogant, dangerously irresponsible twat, and this whole mess was her fault to begin with, the only thing that matters is that she is made to look like the hero for resolving it. Wow. And the really annoying thing is that there was such an easy fix for this. Mariner feels guilty that she messed up her friend's life, and in her efforts to fix the situation, she does something dangerous without thinking about it, gets in trouble, Boimler saves her, the end. Boimler gets validation that he's not failing at life, real validation instead of the fake kind. Mariner eats a piece of humble pie, which quite frankly she could use 2 or 3 helpings of. Everybody wins. That's all it needed to be. But if they'd done this, then Mariner wouldn't have been the most awesomest character ever. And, well, we can't have that. Don't be silly. So Rutherford confesses to Tendi that he tried rearranging his whole career like 3 different times in one shift so he wouldn't miss their date, but for some reason he just couldn't make it work, and he's really, really sorry. But Tendi's like, nah, don't worry about it. It's cool. I can just watch the pulsar on Zoom or some shit. So, earlier, when she made him think it was a great idea for him to ditch the job he loves and start a whole new career just to accommodate her for a fucking hour or 2, turns out she wasn't really serious. He didn't have to do any of that stuff at all. Oh my god! The passive-aggressive mind games she just played on this poor bastard after he bent himself into a pretzel and jumped through every flaming hoop in the goddamn Delta Quadrant just to make her happy for one afternoon are so diabolical motherfucking Quark would have given her a standing ovation. And then, for some reason, we're actually supposed to feel good when not only does Rutherford not just haul back and punch her in the face, but they actually have their date, because we're still meant to root for them to hook up after this. So the episode ends with them hanging out together, Tendi watching the pulsar on her iPad, while Rutherford is finally reunited with his one true love, the Jeffries tube. Jesus Christ. Not that the gender politics of the show needed to be clarified in any way, but this episode just brought everything really sharply into focus. The men are complete pushovers and the women have all the power. And I mean all the power. Boimler is the most pathetic human being alive, only succeeds at anything when Mariner allows him to, and the second he actually achieves anything, he lets it go to his head and he turns into a dick. Whereas Mariner is this super amazing, hyper-competent badass whose only flaw is that she's so awesome that even when the entire episode is built around her f***ing things up, she's still made to look like the hero and the bigger person by the end for fixing the problem that she caused in the first place. Then there's Rutherford, who has so little self-respect that he tries to rearrange his entire life just to keep a date with Tendi, and then can't even bring himself to tell the bitch off after realizing she was just jerking him around the whole time. And Tendi, who's either so unimaginably cruel that Mr. Burns would think she should throw Rutherford a fucking bone, or so oblivious to what Rutherford was going through that he could have hung himself in zero gravity and she wouldn't even have noticed. That's the second episode, with no course correction in sight yet. Mariner is still getting vindicated for her horrible behavior, and now I want to phaser the other three main characters with a setting on kill too. So, great job, Lower Decks. You're really on the right track. If you enjoyed the review, leave a comment. And yes, I know it was late. I wasn't sure if I was going to do more of these. I'm sorry. But I'm going to try to catch up now, so if you want to be notified when that happens, ding the bell icon and follow me on social media. The link is down there. Thumbs up the video, share it around, subscribe to the channel, make sure you're still subscribed, and I'll be back with more soon. Until then, live long and prosper, unless you're the characters on this show, in which case, just blow yourselves out an airlock or something. Peace.